Good evening. Welcome to the February 14th Town of Clifton Park Town Board meeting. Please join me for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Teresa, if you call the roll.
Councilwoman Flood, here. Councilwoman Standard, here. Councilman Morelli,
Here.
Councilwoman Walloway, here. Supervisor Barron.
Here. No town board minutes to consider this evening. Communications and announcements. Just want to congratulate everybody on a successful Winterfest event. There was a lot of great activities going on throughout the town. Looked like folks were having a good time, and that's what it's all about. Weather warmed up nicely as opposed to today, and so it was a good day for Winterfest since all of the indoor activities that we've had over the years we have discontinued due to COVID, but hopefully we'll be able to bring those back in subsequent events. Come on in. Also want to remind everybody again that I understand demand has been falling for home COVID test kits, but we have been giving them out at my office at Town Hall. So if you would like a test kit, please stop by my office at Town Hall on the second floor. It was quite busy last week, and we'll see what this week brings, but we have plenty of them now. The state is obviously emptying out their closets because now all of a sudden we're getting more and more in offers to receive more tests on a regular basis. So if you do want to test, I know they're still useful to many people. Please stop by my office and we'll make sure you get some. Any other communications or announcements?
Yes, Supervisor. So we have 3 new hires up for consideration tonight. And I want to thank the 3 department heads, Terry Cook, Sue Leonard, and Steve Myers, for reaching out to the entire town board with their recommendations. After meeting with and learning about these individuals, I believe that they are all excellent candidates to become part of our team. We on the town board, we're elected to perform very specific functions for our residents, for everyone in this room. Hiring employees to conduct town business is the primary responsibility of a town council member. Recently, the majority of this board, specifically the 3 women who sit up here tonight, have been removed by the supervisor from any and all conversations about new hires. Since I've been a member of this board, the procedure for hiring has always been, 1, the supervisor notifies the town board of a vacancy to be filled. 2, the supervisor receives applications and applicants are then selected to be interviewed. 3, the supervisor asks the town board who would like to conduct the interview with him and the department head. 4, the supervisor, 1 town board member, and the department head then interview applicants. The supervisor then communicates to the remaining town board members the results of their interviews and their recommendation for hiring, and then provides the resume or application or the civil service list and offers that to the town board members for consideration. Finally, the resolution is submitted and presented to the town board for final approval at a public meeting. I'm not quite sure why the supervisor has made the decision to cut the women out of this process, but it is highly egregious and must not continue. This behavior only hurts our employees and our residents. We have a lot of vacancies right now in town hall that need to be filled. We've got some in our comptroller's office. We have some in our town security office. And I do hope moving forward, Mr. Supervisor, that you will include the 3 women in the hiring process moving forward. Thank you.
Well, as I mentioned at the last meeting, after after following that process of asking town board members who's interested in being involved with the interviews, and after an extended period of time receiving little or no interest from those three board members, Councilman Morelli, who's the deputy supervisor, and myself, along with the department heads, we're conducting the interviews. There's no secret that these positions have been open for a fairly long period of time. One that is back on the agenda today, that was tabled at the last meeting, is somebody who's number one on the civil service list. Interviewed very well. It was a recommendation of the department head. And as you might imagine, we give our department heads great latitude with regard to making recommendations on who they prefer during the hiring process. We make that recommendation to the town board. In that position, the person notified all of us that they would be retiring, and that notification was the end of November. And not one inquiry since then from other than from Mr. Morelli, from town board members as to what was as far as the hiring process for that position, or the others for that matter. So you can play your identity politics, because that's what we unfortunately do here on the town board now. It's been going on for a long period of time, unfortunately, because that's something that we haven't done in the past. We don't play identity politic games. But I guess that's the way things are going to shake out here for now on, and that's your choice. But I won't be involved in those kind of shenanigans.
You can continue to claim that politics is at play. What's at play here is you cutting out 3 town.
Did I say
board
politics?
members.
I didn't say anything about politics. I said identity politics.
You can claim that identity politics
Yeah,
is
well,
at play
when you
here,
say
Mr.
keeping the
Supervisor.
women out of the process, I mean, what a joke.
Well, I've only been on the town board 1 year, and I've received 2 emails about openings to possibly interview for, one of which I did do interviews for, and I have never received anything since.
There has been no communication, period. You have
Okay.
stopped.
Well, like I said, these positions have been, one position's been open since the end of November.
Did you
Not
extend-
one inquiry from you or
Did you
the
extend
other.
an invitation
to
to
what?
Linda Wallowit, Amy Flood, or Amy Standard about conducting interviews for the position?
Deputy
of
Supervisor Morelli and I and the department
answer is
head
no, you did
conducted the interviews, and that's based on my experience dealing with the 3 other board members and their interest.
The residents
obviously-
vote us
and obviously-
into office to do this
And
job.
obviously,
You don't get to
if
make
there's
that
a
decision.
position open since November and there's not even one inquiry, that tells you what the interest is.
We have an
that tells you
interest,
what
and
the
that has
interest
been
level is.
communicated.
Okay.
For 20-some years, Councilwoman Wallowit has been involved, at least given the opportunity to be involved in those hirings. For 9 years, I have been asked to be involved or given an opportunity to be involved in all hirings. That is the basic responsibility of a town council member. And you have taken away that job from us.
How was that? Haven't you spoken to and interviewed these people? How did I take it
That's
away?
why the
The
application
town
last week
board needs
was
to
removed,
vote
was tabled.
on each hire.
You did not
So a
communicate.
recommendation made by us as in the department head is far different than a vote, which is required to hire each person.
January 12th.
So
you made
there's
an offer.
nothing, there's no
January
secret
12th.
here.
January 12th, you made an
There's
offer.
no secret here.
January 12th, you made an offer
Yep,
to one of the applicants.
and I tell,
And we were
and I
not
tell
told
all
until
the,
2
and I-
days before
and
our
I
meeting.
tell all the applicants, until the town board votes, it's not official. So,
We were not given the opportunity to speak to
Well,
any of these applicants.
apparently, you didn't speak to them?
Prior to
You didn't speak to them today?
prior to you putting it on the agenda last week. You did not give us the opportunity.
Well, that position was open since the end of November. We were notified the end of November that that person was leaving.
You leave
So-
the interview and the application.
Yes, I do leave.
process.
Yes, I do. That is correct.
And did you
That
communicate
is
to
correct.
the
That
entire,
absolutely happened.
and
It's
did you-
always been that way, and it will continue to be that
to
way.
the entire town board and offer to allow us to be part of the interview process?
You were a part of the
No.
process. You spoke.
No.
Yeah, look,
No, we
this
were
is-
not part of the
This is
process
more of the romper
until
room.
we
This is more of the
tabled-
romper room back and forth
until
that
we
unfortunately is
tabled-
now part of the town board of the
We
town
were
of
not
Clifton
part
Park
of the
as
process
well. so.
until that resolution was tabled last week because we had no idea.
Oh, that was your choice. That was your choice.
We
You
knew
had
nothing
months. You had
about it.
months to be involved. You weren't interested. So you spoke to the person. She's number one on the civil service list. She's recommended by myself, Mr. Morelli, and Steve Myers. She has very good credentials, as do all of the prospective hires on the agenda. So,
I'm
All right,
asking
we
you
do
for the
have,
respect for us to do our jobs moving forward
yes,
as we
okay.
continue with
We
our
do
hires.
have
And
a
I
public
anticipate
hearing
that's not
tonight.
going
I
to
think
happen.
that most of the folks here are here for the public hearing, not to hear this bull crap back and forth that's going on.
Wow.
So why don't we get right to it? John, we have the applicant here? Okay, good. All right, so we're gonna ask the applicant just to give a brief overview of the project. Teresa, if you'd read the legal notice as it appears in the Gazette.
First, I'm going to read the legal notice announcing that the town board meeting was changed to here. Town board meeting, change of address, Town of Clifton Park, County of Saratoga, State of New York, due to the potential public participation at a public hearing for a proposal to amend the Eagle Crest Plantation Planned Development District being held on February 14th, 2022. More space is required per social distancing guidelines due to state requirements. The Clifton Park Town Board meeting scheduled for Monday, February 14th, 2022 at 7 p.m. will take place in the Clifton Park Senior Community Center, 6 Clifton Common, Clifton Park, Town of Clifton Park, and that was in January 13th. It's connected to Gazette. Also on January 13th, the Town of Clifton Park, County of Saratoga, State of New York, notice of public hearing regarding proposal to amend allowed uses within the planned development district for Eagle Crest Plantation. Please take notice that the Town Board of the Town of Clifton Park will conduct a public hearing on February 14th at 7:05 p.m. in the Clifton Park Senior Community Center located at 6 Clifton Common Court, Town of Clifton Park, County of Saratoga, State of New York, to consider an application submitted by Sportsplex of Half Moon Incorporated zoning change and plan development district amendments at the Players Park property located at 1012 Ballston Lake Road. The property is adjacent to the Eagle Crest Golf Course. The proposed legislation would authorize the aforementioned parcels within the existing PDD to consist of a year-round indoor-outdoor sports facility with a synthetic turf indoor field within a 10-year, within a tension fabric structure, an outdoor illuminated synthetic turf field, and a turf practice field. Copies of the proposed local law map and sketch drawings depicting the project will be available in the town clerk's website and also available at the town clerk's office during normal business hours. Comments regarding this public hearing can be directed to town clerk Teresa Brobston, and who will be read at the meeting tonight. And January 13th, that was in the Schenectady Gazette.
Very good. Thank you much. Our applicant's here tonight, so if you could just introduce yourself, and like I said, we'll go through a brief review of the project.
Thank you very much. Thanks for having us. Appreciate having us come in tonight to be able to discuss this project. Looks like there's a decent amount of interest from the community, so this is great. My name is Paul Rogan on behalf of the applicant, and also here tonight is Ray Rudolph from Hayes Engineering and Andy Rint from Bell & Associates. So I'd like to start by just discussing the for the Players Park PDD. If we go to the first slide. Thank you so much. So right now, This PDD is the Eagle Crest Golf Course. It also is a miniature golf course, if you're familiar with this area, and then an ice cream stand, and then a foot golf course as well. Is it possible to just stay on?
Yeah, the timer, I gotta.
And so the PDD was set up to specifically cater toward active recreational uses. And those uses that are currently allowed is a multi-use recreational facility. Obviously, the 18-hole golf course at Eagle Crest, the miniature golf, and then it also, the PDD also went on to mention that the purpose of the land is for tennis courts, softball field, volleyball courts, concession stand, state rose pavilion, and so forth. So right now, the land we're looking at is being used for an ice cream stand as well as a lit foot golf course. And so there's lights on the parcel already. It's got the active use of a foot golf course going on. And so we started looking at the parcel for potentially putting an enclosed sports building on it. And that would replace the lit foot golf course. And so the way we looked at it is it was pretty unique to see that this zoning was specifically for sports fields. And that's actually what we want to do. We want to put in a sports field. I think there's been a lot of communication out there in the world about what exactly this would entail. This is a very basic proposal. Basically, we're looking at taking about the size of a half of a soccer field, a half of an outdoor soccer field. Over at Clifton Commons, they have 6 to 8 outdoor soccer fields, just a half of an outdoor soccer field, and put a roof over it so that the community could use it during the winter months. Right now, there's a lot of wonderful recreational opportunities in the town of Clifton Park. There's obviously tons of different parks and a lot of different soccer fields, baseball fields, lacrosse fields, basketball courts, and so forth. And then in the winter, you have lots of indoor basketball courts, and you have the 2 hockey rinks here, and then you also have the other entity that has an indoor and outdoor hockey rink, but there's no indoor turf space for the sports of lacrosse, flag football, soccer, ultimate frisbee, field hockey, even training space for football or for baseball and softball teams. So that's why we proposed this concept of just enclosing a field so that the community can use it during the winter months. And I just kind of want to explain what this would entail. You're looking at about, like I said, about a half of a soccer field that would be enclosed. It would allow 30 to 40 people to be able to use it at any given time. A group would come in for an hour, 60 to 90 minutes, and then another group would come in. The use would generally be in the evenings and the weekends. You're really limited during the day, so there really wouldn't be any use until the evenings and the weekend. And most of this would be during the winter months, November to March, when people can't get on the outdoor fields. So that's why we propose this project. I have been hearing that there's been some feedback from the community with regard to it. I've heard that people were concerned about the height of the building and the proposed building, and we certainly will discuss that in a little while with Ray Rudolph. We're very flexible on that. I also was told that they're concerned about where it would be on the site. We're very flexible with regard to placement on the site as well. It's an 8-acre site, so there's plenty of space on the site for the structure. And then I also was told that there was definitely concern about this outdoor field with outdoor lighting. And so again, with regard to that, we'll talk about that in a little more detail in a minute. But right now, the parcel has outdoor sports lighting on it already. Like I said, they have an active sports use of this 9-hole foot golf course, and they have lights on it. And we're flexible with regard to that as well. And we'll talk about that in in a little more detail in a minute. I just want to go over a couple other concerns. I was told that there's concerns about this turning into like a tournament venue. We're very limited in what we can do here. We would just have this one space where, like I said, a couple of sports teams could come in and practice, 15, 20 players per team, they could come in and practice, or if they're playing a game, it'd be like a 66 small-sided game, you have 12 people on the field. So we're limited in how many people can actually utilize this facility at any one time. And we really didn't have any contemplation of looking to do outdoor tournaments. It really wouldn't be possible at this site. I heard it mentioned that there was concern that there'd be outdoor tournaments like Clifton Commons. Clifton Commons is a big, huge complex. This would just be one field that we could use for community to come in and rent it and utilize it. So those were some of the concerns that we've heard, and we'll discuss a little bit more in detail as we go through the slides.
Thanks, Paul. Again, my name is Ray Rudolph. I'm the sole proprietor of the Hayes Advisors and Infrastructure Consultancy Firm. Known Paul for quite a number of years. Next slide, please. Back one, please, to the existing site plan. Most of you, I'm sure, know where the site is. To the right of the site plan is not far down the road is the entrance to Eagle Crest Golf Course. The small flag-looking lot to the right of the topographical survey is the ice cream stand. Some of the parking for that spills onto the other lots. So this proposal is actually those two contiguous lots. This proposal does not include the miniature golf course, which is immediately to the right of the ice cream stand. You can see a little disadvantage without a pointer, but there's a stream that goes through the site. I call it a stream of wetland with a man-made pond, a man-made wetland. We have had a wetland scientist flag the limits of that and categorize them as being low quality. And we'll talk about what that means when we look at the proposed site plan. There's a row of trees along 146A that would be preserved under this plan, preserved and supplemented under this plan. The ice cream stand will be eliminated, probably much to the chagrin of a lot of the people here. The ice cream stand will be eliminated as part of the project. That roof 146A is obviously at the top. 146A is a point of reference now, has 5,200 cars per day on what the state calls AADT, average annual daily traffic, with a peak PM hour, which is largely the one you would look at for a project like this, of 480 vehicles per hour right now is the average PM peak. The proposed project would be adding about 40 cars or a little less than 10% to that peak. 40 in the peak hour. Next slide, please. I'm going to talk to you about the project. So this is an existing PDD. A little bit of a cart before the horse. We put together this site plan to bring to the town board for referral to the planning board. The planning board has subsequently sent their comments back to the town board for their consideration. So this plan, I wouldn't say was done in a complete vacuum, but darn close to it. I would like to explain both what is in here and what is completely malleable as part of the proposal too. After, if and when the PDD amendments approved, we would then go back to the planning board for the normal iterative process of proposing the design, improving the design, and finally getting approval of the design. So in the bottom left corner of this plan, I should mention, to the very left side is one of budding single-family neighbor. So that's the abutter to the left. To the south or the bottom of the entire property line is the driving range and one or two of the holes of the golf course, and again, golf course property to the right. So the project consists of an outdoor turf, as proposed, consists of an outdoor turf field in the bottom left, 210 feet by 330 feet was the proposal here, which is industry standard minimum size for regulation play. That size is up for discussion, certainly, but we started with a regulation field is the answer. We are proposing or have proposed it be a lighted field with a maximum operational time of 10 o'clock p.m., which I think is the same time as the foot golf. So we didn't want to extend. This is not an adult league, adult use complex or facility. So 10 o'clock would be the maximum. We have proposed lighting in the four corners of the field. Again, that's a design element. How it's lit and exactly to what intensity and if it's lit is the subject for discussion moving forward. Above the field to the north and between the field and 146A is stormwater management and wetlands mitigation areas. Because the existing wetlands are low quality, we believe the Corps of Engineers will allow us to do what is called a 1-for-1 mitigation. For every acre or square foot of wetland disturbed, we have to put one equal amount back because the likelihood of being able to revegetate wetland of similar or better quality is likely, given the fact that it's very low quality now. The building is in the white, 180 by 240 feet, 43,200 feet. That allows, as Paul Rogan said, it's one 9v9 game, east to west, west to east, two 6x6 games, largely half, and you can see the scale, it's largely half a soccer field with some perimeter, a full soccer field with some perimeter around it for parental seating, team seating, one row of chairs basically, and access to the field without interrupting the field of play. Parking is shown, I think it's about 130 new spaces, 128, I think, new spaces above and beyond what's there now. That we showed on the plan the maximum amount of parking available. Most codes, the Clifton Park is no different, does not have a standard in their regulations for X number of cars per indoor soccer field. It's a specialized item and something that would be negotiated and settled upon with the planning board ultimately, and it doesn't do the applicant any good to short parking. So trust me, we will have the right amount of parking for the facility. We wanted to show what the maximum amount of viable parking was on the site, which is a total of about 100 and 180 spaces, which is significant. You'll see to the right of the big white box, a smaller white box that we're showing right now, a 2,400 square feet single story building, wood frame building, largely a 2,400 square foot house looking facility. In that is no concessions other than a vending machine, a small management and check-in area, a congregate area for parents to wait for their children to come out or to go in to use the facility inside, and restrooms, storage closet, janitorial supply. Yes.
When you get the restrooms, how big are the restrooms, men's and women's combined? How many?
I can't tell you. I know we programmed about 400 square feet out of the 2,500. Right now at the programmatic level, we're at square feet per field. Right?
Has there been a study done as to how much waste would enter the ground?
Yes, and you're the perfect setup for this, for the presentation. So to specifically answer your question, instead of coming back to it, we have the good fortune of having had Mr. Rogan run the facility in Hatfield, it was larger than this. That was metered, fully metered. It had concessions and was larger, and they used 450 gallons per day. We put in the environmental assessment form 500 gallons per day, 10% higher than their use, which
Is
is,
that a viable business though?
that's an extremely viable business.
As a sports complex?
Yes, as a sports complex. And like I said, we have the good fortune of having had historical documentation that's on the conservative side. So it's largely, if you, I'll get to the presentation, then we'll take questions. Yeah.
I just want to ask a question. Where does the sports complex getting its water?
Well, private well.
Private.
They run a public water system.
A sports complex.
Yeah, Hatfield Sportsplex, they were on the town of Hatfield water system.
They're on town.
Yes, that's correct.
Sure.
And house.
And town.
But to be clear, this project will use right around the same amount of water that each of you uses in your single family residence. A 3-bedroom house by code is 450 gallons per day for both calculation of well need, well water supply, and sewage disposal.
You have a study on this subject.
Yes,
And what's been done, because a number of us are residents of the area.
understood.
Every one of us lives slightly down the hill from the golf course height. And every single one of us has huge water problems running under our houses where it's been engineered and it's gravel. And water just runs under the house and runs to someplace and goes into the ponds. What makes you think that when you have water draining down from the side of the hill from where the ice cream bar is and from the net where the golf balls get from, that there isn't water running down there that's filling the pools, the ponds that are actually on there right now that you want to change? How do you expect to get a septic that will keep the water clean and keep the water from passing our homes and our ponds, not be contaminated?
Understood.
So, is there been a study done on that?
We're not, we are, number one, we're not at that point yet.
Okay.
Number two, we have done test bits on the property, about 15 test bits to find the places on the property that have soils that are most suitable for use for a septic system. And we've only, the plan shows the septic, proposed septic systems in areas where the soils can percolate or infiltrate the wastewater after it's treated in the septic.
All right, do you have those to provide to the town right now to?
No, not
No?
yet.
So it's really deep words.
You did
You're
have,
saying you have this, but you don't have it, can't give it to the town.
We certainly are not hiding anything. We'll make the test bits available.
Well, you don't have
And-
anything. You said you have them, but you don't have them to turn over.
We don't have a full engineering report for the
So you
design.
don't
of the
have-
you
septic
don't
system.
have, you don't have. an
We
engineering
have
report
test bits
from-
that are done that allowed us to locate within very good engineering certainty.
Oh, I've lived there all my life, so I
Understood.
know what that land, the lands are like there.
Understood?
I have had this.
Yeah.
If you look around our area, most of the newer homes in our area have to have a raised bed septic system.
I'm aware of
And
that.
I'm very skeptical of you saying that you have spots on that piece of property that is percolating. I'd like to see those.
Absolutely, and they'll be made available with the engineering report that.
And what's your engineering company for percolating? And I'm sorry, your
We
name
were,
My name is Andy Riff of LaBelle.
was LaBelle?
Yeah.
Okay.
So why don't we let them just finish their presentation, and then we'll get through that part of it. So go ahead.
Explaining the programmatic subboard issue for the uses of the PDD. It's additional studies and things of that nature for the particulars of the site plan review still need to be done. But we're here tonight to describe this PDD amendment.
Thanks, Andy.
Oh, there's misleading statements here. I'm concerned. I understand and I respect what you said, sir. Mr. Barrett, I respect what you just said, but there's some statements you're making that are a little misleading that I'm concerned about. Because unless we have facts and studies to back them up, we need to just propose, but not say, we've done a study that says this for this private well here. is adequate enough to support the drawdown of water required for a project of this magnitude to maintain the new fields, the inside when it's being used, bathrooms, flushing, washing of hands. One private little well that's fed by aquifer or aquifers that are used by neighboring homes that have their own private wells. You just said this former Plex was supported in Half Moon by town water. This is a private well. When you make that statement saying that this proposed site meets all those requirements, I want to see a certified hydrogeological study from an engineering company that says it will support this and not deplete any of the surrounding aquifers and water supply of the neighbors who live there.
That's correct. And you.
No, I want to see it guaranteed that
Understood.
for everything it's meant to do, that it will protect us and keep our water supply intact.
Understood. And at the appropriate time, if the town board sees in their judgment that this planned development district amendment is appropriate, then the next step is to go to the planning board and vet each and every concern, go through the secret process, which has water supply, sewage disposal, that will all be completely vetted during the secret process with the planning
I
board.
just want to make sure we're not making statements that are misleading because we don't have a certified study done on this yet.
Understood.
Thank you.
Thank you for the clarification. So the other project components, there is a small field, not terribly consequential in the scheme of the other two major components, but just to the right of the large soccer field, there's a lighter green small field. That's what's in the sports world called a mini pitch. It's a 60 by 120 field for warm up. The intention is to have that funded through the U.S. Soccer Foundation mini pitch program, which is a nice feature. Parents with kids younger than participation age can go knock a ball around while their sibling is practicing. Lots of uses. So we talked about the other building, the small 2,400 square foot building that covers the project components. I do want to go through why we have everything on the plan where we have it, and also describe how flexible the ownership group and the design team are in configuring the project. The field, as I mentioned, the outdoor field is 210, the minimum regulation size. It's a drill field, largely for practices. The project sponsor, and you can talk more, Paul, is willing to make that a different size. It was not necessarily magic that it be that big. It's not in the owners or in the project sponsors' benefit necessarily to make it as big as it's proposed, but it will allow a game to be contested. The tension fabric structure, as was read in the notice, that's a building you all have seen a lot more of those than you probably realize you've seen. They're light gauge metal buildings, and they are what they're called tension fabric structures for a reason. They're an upside down pole. It's a light gauge metal framing with a fabric stretched over the top of it, and it acts like a diaphragm to support itself. You would be hard pressed to go a week without driving around without seeing one someplace, but you might just not know you've seen it. We picked that particular structure.
Excuse me, where?
What's
Give
that?
us an example of where a building like that is.
Because Mr.
Arizona?
Arizona letter said they
Where?
use them in agriculture.
They were started in the agricultural world.
In this area.
Is there,
In
give
this
us an
area.
example.
Saratoga County, there's a nice one.
Saratoga County. Give us an example.
There's a nice one right off, that's the 13th.
Okay, that's 13th away, so that's not even town of Clifton Park.
Yeah, there's a really nice structure, very similar in nature.
Industrial, commercial,
No, it's farming, it's a farm, it's not a farm.
And that's, there's one in Bethlehem, off the bypass, and I forget the
off
name.
the bypass.
right off the back.
Not in a residential area.
No, it's right across from the subdivision, as a matter of fact.
Across,
They're very popular. They're very popular. They started in Canada. They were used in the agricultural world. And they're very popular for both recreational sports, greenhouses, equestrian facilities, and farm equipment storage. That's largely what these kinds of facilities are used for. We picked that type because we thought we recognized the agricultural history of this area and wanted to be sympathetic to it. Now, that having been said, we cognizantly chose to put the facility close to the road because historically a lot of barns were close to the road. If that is objectionable, we can slide it back and towards the field. We can flip-flop. One of the comments we got from the planning board was they liked the fact the biggest massive parking was blocked from the view shed by the building. We can just as easily flip that. Put parking out in front. We can screen the parking with a berm and some trees, do all the normal site planning tricks, and get that building further from the road. The other thing we can do is the building, as conceived right now, is a single building able to contest two short-sided 6-on-6 games. We can split that building into two buildings and reduce its height. Right now, the building is planned to be 40 feet. The zoning, underlying zoning suggests 35 feet maximum with increased setbacks if more than 35 feet. So it's not set at a maximum of 35, but we can split the building into two smaller buildings if need be. But that's only going to save you about 5-6 feet in the building height. So those kinds of design details would be worked out again with the planning board. I think we put, but yeah, next slide, please. Yeah. So these are a few sample pictures of the tension fabric structure. You can see the top one has.
It's coming back up.
Has some wood panels on the side, some wood panel on the end, some natural light through some glazing or some glass on the end. There's a lot of things you can do to these buildings to break up the monotony of the building, which is a nice piece of it. The other reason they were picked is there's 8 months a year, maybe, depending on your personal preference, where you wouldn't need to heat the building. They have zip out sides. You can take parts of the end panels and side panels out, so you don't have to use artificial ventilation and heating. So basically it becomes a roof or a tent over the top of the field, which saves a lot on energy costs. The fabric itself, other than pieces that need to be insulated for heat conservation to meet the energy code, can be translucent again to use light during use natural light during most daylight hours.
No, I think the highlight the representation on the top picture at the top is about 10 feet to the east, so that gives you a sense of scale that's
similar to the scale of what we're proposing.
Actually, next slide.
Next slide, please. I'll figure out.
Thanks, Brad. So, again, just to reiterate that this is a piece of land that's actively being used for sports uses, and we're just looking to, and it's zoned actually to put sports fields in, and we're just looking to cover a field so that it could be used in the winter. And along those lines, you look at the objectives of a PDD, like it says up on the slide. The first objective of a PDD being more usable open space, preserved lands, and/or recreational areas shall be created. Well, by putting in this field, we would be increasing the recreational opportunities for the community. So it is a direct correlation between the objective and what we're looking to do. With point number 2, trees, topography, water resources, and outstanding natural features shall be preserved where possible. That's completely fine. The site as it is right now doesn't contain any outstanding natural features. There's an existing low-quality pond and ditch, which would actually be improved. And we certainly would be amenable to adding some additional trees along Route 146A and additional supplemental plantings as needed. Number 3, a creative use of land and related physical developments, which allows an orderly transition of land from a vacant state to a developed state. The proposed development's already within the existing footprint of the foot golf and the ice cream stand. So we're not actually looking to change anything there. Number 4, an efficient use of land resulting in economical networks of utilities and streets. Again, the PDD is already developed. We're just looking to take a piece of land and change the use from the foot golf to a sports field. And number 5, a development pattern in harmony with the planning objectives of the town. I understand that the underlying planning objectives of the town are the well-being of its citizens and residents. And the proposed use is for recreational activities, which obviously would be beneficial to the town. Right now, the reality is if you want to play a whole host of sports during the winter months, soccer, flag football, lacrosse, field hockey, ultimate frisbee, there's actually not an option in the town of Clifton Park. So the community actually has to leave the town of Clifton Park and oftentimes the county to participate in these activities. So we think that that would enhance the well-being of the citizens to be able to stay within this town to partake in these recreational activities. Obviously, we save the gas and time as well. The community needs to be driving out of the town right now to participate in these activities. And so that's our objective here, and it's really a basic project. You need a decent amount of space to play these sports. So while the building itself is a pretty big building, the amount of people who can use it at any given time is pretty minimal. And that's just how it goes with indoor sports, is you need a decent space. I can tell you that 35, 40 people coming every 60 to 90 minutes for a few winter months. I think that's actually a good trade-off from right now. It's a business that's running in the summer when Eagle Crest is at its busiest. This would be a situation of when Eagle Crest is a little bit slower in the winter months. This is when this business would be used. So we have a group of people who all play sports, coach sports. I'm the coach for the Clifton Park Soccer Club. And when the Sportsplex in Half Moon closed, we recognized that there was going to leave a huge recreational void in the town of Clifton Park. So we immediately set out to try to find a good site to put a field. We are not looking and not interested in all of the ancillary uses that most sports facilities would be. We're not going to have a health club. We're not looking to have yoga studios. We're not looking to have dance classes. We're not looking to have a restaurant. We're not looking to do any of those things. We're just looking to have a field that there's a roof over so that when people want to come use it during the winter, they can use it. So all summer, people are going to fields to play sports. And then in the winter, they can't. We put a roof over it, now they can. There's no difference. It's just one field. It's not even a field. It's a half the size of a soccer field. So it's just a very limited amount of people who can even use it. I would like to discuss, like Ray said, for the board, we're quite flexible in approval. I mean, if the board wanted to restrict the outdoor lighting to what's currently there, with the height of the poles, if that was an issue, that would be fine. We think that a full outdoor turf field would be really beneficial to the town, to the Shenandoah School District, to the Vernon Hill School District. But if the board wanted to restrict it outside the turf field to the smallest, which is a training field for like one team, that would be fine as well. There's a lot of flexibility with regard to that. It's quite an expense to put lighting in a full turf field. We have a group of people who are willing to do it, but not unless the board wanted it. So there's a lot of flexibility. I believe tonight we're here just for the PDD amendment on whether or not the board is willing to allow for an enclosed field. All of the additional details would obviously be fully vetted in front of the planning board. Are there any questions from the board?
Is this going to be open to people from Bird Hills and like Boston Spa, Half-Moon District, Clifton Park, like that? How's that work?
Yeah, it would be open to the community. It's actually in the
Clifton Park people?
Okay, thank you.
Everywhere.
At this point, I just want to talk about the process a little bit. So the applicant submitted the application. It was referred to the planning board for an initial recommendation. Now we're here, public hearing. The project cannot move ahead until there is an affirmative vote by the town board. If the town board were to vote no on the project, it ends there. If the town board votes yes on the project, the project would then need to go through a full planning process. So a lot of the issues that were discussed during the presentation there would be vetted thoroughly through that planning process. John, can you, John Scavo, our planning director, John, could you tell us about the planning board recommendation?
Yes, I'll read the recommendation which was offered to the town board on December 21st, 2021. After a presentation by the applicant, comments offered by the public in attendance and discussion amongst board members, the planning board determined they could not reach a consensus to provide a motion to approve, deny, or approve with modifications. Thus, planning board members commissioned planning staff to prepare this letter to outline the general opinions, concerns, and comments of the planning board. The statements listed below are to assist the town board with identifying evaluation criteria when considering the PDD application. The PDD was established in 1993 before the enactment of the surrounding conservation residential zoning district. In consideration of the comment regarding this amendment, the Environmental Conservation Commission's review letter dated 12/7/2021 stating per town code a PDD should be compatible with surrounding zoning. The planning board reviewed this proposal against the requirements of the conservation residential zoning district, specifically the following. 208-16D1D states that recreational uses in this zone are to be passive in nature unless the lands are municipally owned. 208-16E8C states minimum front yard setbacks in the zone are to be 125 feet when on the state highway. There are concerns that the siting of the structure and proposed uses are deviations from these requirements given the PDD's location and size within the CR zoning district. These concerns may be significant. While the planning board preferred the parking to be to the rear of the building, it suggested the applicant evaluate the possibility of shifting the structure further from Route 146A right-of-way line to minimize the structure's massing from the public right-of-way. An opportunity to introduce street trees with enhanced landscaping may assist in addressing these concerns. Traffic concerns were expressed based on the proposed increased intensity for the use of the site. Outdoor LED Musco lighting technology deployed should be designed in a manner that controls light spillover and glare to adjacent properties. Input from the town's open space committee for an additional non-binding advisory opinion may be of value to the town board for their consideration. While board members were open to the concept and community needs, concerns about this location being the right spot were expressed. Therefore, planning board members felt the best course of action for a recommendation was to provide a synopsis of their concerns and perspectives to the town board based on the discussion rather than coming up with a specific action in the form of a motion.
Okay. Thank you very much. I should also note that there won't be a vote tonight. I don't know if anybody was expecting that, but there will not be a determination made tonight. There's really no time frame for that to happen, but if a vote does occur, it will be on a future agenda. Anything else, John? I don't believe you know.
No, sir.
All right. Okay, very good. So we'll now get started with the public hearing. So if you would like to speak on this matter, please raise your hand. We'll ask that you come forward. State your name and address for the record, and please keep it to 5 minutes or less, so we'll make sure we can get everybody included this evening. Yes, ma'am? Yes, please.
Thank you. My name is Jackie Carice. I live at 1021 Ballston Lake Road. I am directly across from the current Players Park and the site of this proposed project. I live here with my husband Jimmy and our son Luca. We have lived here in our 20th year now. Prior to that, my in-laws owned the land that is now the Mooney Carice Forest. And they have been there, it's been family owned since the 30s. This is an emotional time for us. I'm a recently retired 30-year plus public school science teacher and public school administrator, director of science and engineering for the Niskayuna Central School District. I do have a strong background in engineering and hydrogeology, groundwater, public water, well water. We are not opposed to this wonderful opportunity for kids of a sports complex, an indoor sports facility with outdoor fields in the town of Clifton Park. We are not opposed to that. We always want what is best for kids, just not this location. This will forever change the environmental footprint of the area. It goes completely against the town of Clifton Park's comprehensive plan to keep the western part of Clifton Park forever wild as best possible. This was a study that was done years ago at a taxpayer expense and resulted in a 2004-2005 comprehensive plan, to the best of what my research tells me. This goes directly against that. The town of Clifton Park, through awesome work of Jennifer Vigiani and other town board members, worked to get a grant from New York State to purchase my in-laws' property, Arnold and Kathleen Carice, just a few short years ago at fair market value to make this beautiful light recreational use forest where we have hiking, cross-country skiing, a lot of happy people we meet on those trails. There's a cornfield that the farmers still grow corn on. And what this project is proposing is going to go directly against that. We live across the street. We will be directly impacted forever by this project. We have a private well. The private well for this proposed site is right across from ours. We know that because they came in the summer of 2020 to drill that well and insisted it was our property that was going to have the well drilled. They sprayed all over our lawn. We kept insisting that we lived at 1021 Ballston Lake Road. That is our postal address. But the Players Park and this proposed project continue to list that address as 1021 Ballston Lake Road, Route 146A. Anyways, for those people who would advocate for this project to go through, I'm begging board members to please give credence to the people who live there, that this will directly impact, that this will directly change for where we live and the quality of where we live. This is our life's work. This is our life savings. There should be a complex such as this in Clifton Park, but not here. Why not Route 146? Why not Route 9, where there are local businesses that could support people attending venues at this complex, such as convenience stores, gas stations, fast food, restaurants, all those amenities that could help support when people go there. I'm going to ask respectfully to please, please, please give a strong ear to the people who speak, who are directly impacted by this, and ask you to vote against this. Thank you.
Hi, how are you?
Hi, good evening. I actually actually wrote a little something brief because it's very important to
Could
me.
you say your name, please?
Yes, sorry. My name is Eve Bukwinski. My husband Charles Petrasky and I, we own a 6-acre property located at 1067 Ballston Lake Road. 80% of my property is forest. About 10% is a combination of a flower and vegetable gardens. I consider myself a micro farmer. Professionally, I'm a freelance florist, professional gardener, a preserved moss wall artist. I'm also a New York State licensed forager, and I teach others about mushrooms through workshops I host in my own property as well as my neighbors' properties. My most important job, however, is that I'm a mother to 5 boys. They are ages 3 to 13, and I have 2 of my own sons and 3 stepsons who attend both Shenandoah as well as Burton Hills Boston School District. I want you to know that I purchased my eggs around the corner from Bill. He owns a farm with poultry, and I got my eggs there year round. I buy my honey from the other farmer around the corner. I get my pumpkins and my gourds just down the street on Ashtown Road. I even cut my own Christmas tree in Ballston Lake on the Christmas farm that we have. Now, our neighborhood and our town is an agricultural community. We are against the proposed project because we see it changing the nature of our community. We are concerned about the increased traffic, environmental impact, noise, and light pollution. The Schenectady Gazette likened the massive structure to an airport hangar, which is not only an eyesore, but it does not belong in our farming community. I suggest places of consideration to be Plank Road, Ushers Road, perhaps 146, which is already a commercial corridor. These are all substantial in size, and they're all commercially zoned areas already, but not my small neighborhood. I thank you kindly and respectfully for your representation of my community and all the other families that I represent around me. Thank you.
Like most of you that are married, your wife is smarter than you. Yeah? Oh, I gotta mute the microphone. Well, Teresa, when your son played for me, I didn't need a microphone. Okay. Like most of you who are married, you know that your wife is smarter than you. And my wife did a tremendous job explaining everything I was about to say. All right, I'm going to fill in a couple of gaps. My name is Jimmy Crease, and as Jackie mentioned, we live at 1021 Ballston Lake Road. And my grandfather bought all this land in 1938 after surviving the Depression. I've lived there since 1956. A few quick points. There is no foot golf business. And Mr. Rogan can stand up here and tell you that the lights are on, and the lights are on, and it's 10 o'clock at night, and people are howling off from foot golf. I think I've seen 6 people play foot golf in the last 5 years there. All right, that's number one. All right, number two, the lights are not on until 10 o'clock at night, right? Because the ice cream place shuts down early in the evening, and over the last couple of years, of course, the reason we're here is because there hasn't been a lot of business across the street. Okay, there's only one light on in the parking lot when the ice cream place closes early evening. That's 4 to 5 months out of the year. The lot is vacant with one parking lot light on it for 6 months out of the year. This proposal is year-round. It's a dramatic change. And Mr. Rogan, you should be a lawyer because that's a wonderful sales job of telling us what's going on, and it's actually not going on. Those who are here this evening to support the proposal, I'm a 38-year teacher coach. I love kids. I think they need opportunities, but not in the middle of farm enforcement. There, according to Mr. Myers, who is the gentleman in charge of land development, in his words, in the Gazette, a significant increase in intensity of use in that area. Those of you who are here to support this, right? I don't think you want to go home to a field house and lights in front of your house. Do you? New York State Troopers write speeding tickets 2 to 3 times a week out of the players' parking lot. The business is vacant 6 months of the year. What does the public safety look like when you add a high-traffic, year-round, high turnover rate every 2 hours? Moms in the soccer bands, God bless them. Just do it somewhere else, okay? What's that look like? People are doing 60. Why are the troopers there 2 to 3 times a week? Because in the COVID period of time, we got to put some money in the coffers. And you can do it there. The town paid my parents $325,000 for the 78 acres across the street. And as Jackie mentioned, it's now the Moody Creek Forest Preserve. Okay. That was part of their pursuit of forever green and open spaces. Mr. Barrett, Jennifer Vigiani, the town was phenomenal. And they were great with my deceased parents. Mr. Matthias, if you're here, I'm quoting you. Your quote in the Gazette of January 8th is a gentle reminder to the town what the zoning law says, why it's there, and all the benefits that it has brought to the town of Clifton Park and its residents. This is the wrong proposal in the wrong place. Please continue what you've been doing for 20 years and keep this forever green. Thank you.
Hi, I'm Jennifer Zimmerman, and I live at 643 McElroy Road, which, if you know the area, ends at 146A. I'm about in the middle of McElroy, so I get the speeding traffic, which in the last 16 years that I bought my house, which was built in 1878, the traffic has probably tripled. The speed zone is 45 miles an hour. I think I'm the only person who's ever driven that slow on the road, including my own husband. I cannot tell you how many times, every single winter, we have an accident in front of our house. Every single winter, somebody goes in the ditch. They don't go in the ditch, they go into our yard and knock down our mailbox. We have it happen every single year. There are no shoulders on these roads. This is a 2-lane road. That was a dirt road that wasn't even paved till the 1960s. It is 2 lanes, no shoulders. You're taking your life in your hand to even walk down that road. And when I moved there 16 years ago, you could still take a walk. People would still walk their dogs. You'd occasionally see people biking or running there. It's literally taking your life in your hands to go out on that road now. There's nowhere to go. If a speeding car comes at you, you have to jump into a ditch to get away. This is not a safe area to bring any more traffic to. I'm concerned about the people who live there. I'm concerned about the people who drive there. I'm concerned about the wildlife. Right across the street is some undeveloped land, which is wonderful for me because that's my view. We have turkeys and deers and woodchucks and foxes and bunnies and everything you can think of, and even coyotes, I'm afraid, who cross in front of my house or my neighbor's house. This is not a place you want to put commercial traffic in. You are going to harm wildlife, you're going to cause an accident, somebody trying to avoid a deer on the road. It's just the wrong place. And I agree with everybody who said, I'm not against a sports complex at all. I know there's plenty of people in town who they want this for their children. And I think it's a good idea, but it's not the right place. And I want to thank, I put in a message last week asking all of the board members to call me back so that I could discuss this in person with them. The only 2 who did were Ms. Standard and Ms. Wallowit, 2 of the women on the board who were kind enough to do what they should have done as council people from town of Clifton Park when the taxpayer asked them to respond. Thank you.
Thank you.
Supervisor Barrett, members of the town board, and ladies and gentlemen. I am Kurt Schwartz, who with my wife Julie are the owner-operators of Maple Hill Farm on Ashtown Road. We are here this evening to express our opinion in opposition of this project. My topic remarks this evening center around open space sustainability and its connection to enduring agriculture. There are a couple of you here this evening that remember back in 2004, when residents from the town were invited to assemble peer into the future, and provide input to characterize their vision for the future of Clifton Park's western landscape. This would all be incorporated into the open space plan, generic environmental impact statement, the documentation which is widely available to you. 10 years earlier, landowners assembled to create the first agricultural district in Clifton Park, established to protect farm activities by applying the provisions of New York's Ag District and Right to Farm laws. At the time of its creation, nearly 3,200 acres were enrolled. By the time we got to the 2004 year mark, nearly 50% had disappeared. The reasons for this decline are varied. However, one in particular stands out, and it's relevant to tonight's topic. In the documentation for the open space plan, etc., is the statement, current zoning and land use policies have set the stage for the elimination of agriculture as a viable use in the study area. This potential impact was designed during the build-out analysis and was determined by the town board and residents to be unacceptable. This is important. It's important as an oversight in public policy was discovered. It was acknowledged, it wasn't hidden. That acknowledgement allowed it to have a broader understanding of the problem, forming a roadmap for corrective action. In essence, everyone here this evening is providing input where public policy will decide how to view and value our semi-rural community in northwestern Clifton Park and its associated intact landscapes of not only agriculture, but large contiguous parcels of unbroken open space which characterize this locality and give it its identity. In the 18-year time span from when the McElroy farm ceased activities, later to become Northway Heights Golf Course, and harvesting activities ceased on the Mooney farm, the epicenter of tonight's forum. Both properties remained as one contiguous and functioning land area, not constrained by fragmentation, resembling the disconnected shards of a broken window. You could put all the pieces back together, but it doesn't function as it did when it was whole. The importance of this condition was asserted again during the 2004 public meetings. There was broad-scale concurrence that the mix of existing open space was a powerful characteristic, channeling people to come here, settle, call Clifton Park their home, and crucial to retain and preserving homeowner quality of life surroundings and environments. You don't have to go too far. You can look backward in time and understand that this town is largely fragmented, traversing into residential and commercial endeavors. There are a variety of reasons for this. People get old. Their descendants either do not have the ability or the interest to continue, and there are economic considerations. However, a single ingredient has shown itself universally to initiate widespread land use transformation. The introduction of a non-characteristic blemish on an otherwise stable backdrop transmits reverberations in all directions, moving with the smoothness of oil on water. Once it's there, you can't reverse it. Tonight, we are gathered here to provide feedback on just such a blemish involved in the industrial scale transformation of open space, where the intended services already exist in surrounding locales. I'm going to skip the portion that was already said. You know about the siting, you know about the plant, you know about the aquifers, you know about the impervious surface. And we have spoken about you already understanding transportation impacts on rural town roads connecting to 146A, already abounding with commuter and commercial truck traffic, the volume at times exceeding roadway design limitations, and yes, disheartening to the property owners that live there. Property owners, voters, taxpayers. Things in nature do not endure as sustainable entities when habitat is continually broken into ever smaller and more isolated occurrences. A report compiled and presented in 2019. Keep in mind, this is 3-year-old numbers. They conclude that only 1,300 acres of active farmland remain in Clifton Park. Of that sum, 1/3 is either permanently protected, is in the process of being permanently protected, or is under contract for solar development. The unprotected residual is about 850 acres. 0.025% of the footprint existing inside the geopolitical boundary defining the town of Clifton Park. 0.025% is all you have left. As you drive down McElroy Road, there is about 200 acres of cropland. That 200 acres is included in this 850 sum. There's also another conclusion from this analysis. The unprotected farmland in this town is financially inaccessible to new owners because no business model can support the current land use prices. What you see is what you've got. And here, a stone's throw away, we're going to try to introduce something that could further deteriorate this. How large, unbroken expanses of real estate are governed, regardless of their current land use, will factor directly into the sustainability of what remains. Actions which further deteriorate the present land use mosaic will cause irreversible damage in its ability to support wildlife populations and other human needs. Sentiments expressed this evening will form decision tools used to either preserve the existing EIS land use pattern or to concede the town of Colony model, where Latham Farms' connection to rural landscapes is only by usage of the word. Most of Clifton Park land is already fragmented. Proceeding as imagined will result in a domino effect. No crystal ball is needed to realize that land use conversion pressure will be accelerated to the detriment of our local community. Once the foot is in the door, you know how the rest of the phrase goes. Everyone in attendance this evening understands the gravity of the decision you will be tasked to make. It takes awareness to examine not only what is inside the box, but to fully understand and appreciate the attributes that surround it, becoming cognizant about adverse consequences to encircling resources. It takes focus to appreciate and conclude this is not the right place nor the time. And it takes courage to say no. Supervisor Barrett, members of the town board, and ladies and gentlemen, thank you for the opportunity to present my point of view and now relinquish my rights to the floor by citing a portion of the lyrics created in 1969 by singer-songwriter Joni Mitchell. Don't it always seem to go? You don't know what you've got till it's gone. They paved paradise and they put up a parking lot.
Now that's a tough act to follow. I'm Bob Lavelle. I'm here with my wife Heidi. We live at 1032 Route 146A here in Clifton Park. We built our home in 2003 and are located right next door to the proposed complex. We share the property line.
Bob, you gotta talk closer.
I'm sorry. First of all, we understand why parents, schools, and others want the sports complex. We're former members of the Half Moon Sports Complex. We took our daughter there when she was in high school. We all want what's best for our kids. It's just that the proposed complex is not appropriate for our neighborhood. It belongs in an industrial park or established commercially zoned district, not a residential neighborhood, lacking services such as water, sewers needed to support a complex of this magnitude. My primary concerns are, first and foremost, it will totally change the character of our neighborhood as well as the entire west end of Clifton Park. Being a licensed certified real estate appraiser for 40 years, I can say without question that it will have a severe and negative impact on my property value as well as the property values in the immediate proximity of the complex. Also, it's my opinion that it'll hinder the marketability and reduce property values in the entire west end. My other major concerns are more personal. With this 43,000 square foot structure, which is, I've heard, anywhere from 40 to 45 feet high, artificial turf, the parking lot covering the better part of the site, the runoff from the complex will more than likely flood my property since it sits below grade. Water finds its level. Also, we have a walkout basement, and I feel that'll flood. I believe the building department is well aware of how high the water table is in our neighborhood. I'm also concerned about our septic system not functioning as designed and its inability to perk. In addition, the synthetic field will be right next to my well, and we fear contamination. Being next door to a seasonal business is far different than neighboring a complex open 14 hours a day. I haven't heard how many days per week, I'm assuming 7, with traffic, lighting, cars, buses, noise pollution. It would seriously impact the quality of our lives. I was so concerned, I had contacted our attorney and they asked us, or recommended that I inform the board about spot zoning. And let me just share with you spot zoning implications. In the event the town board resolves to consider the application, it is respectfully asserted that the application has potential for a challenge for illegal spot zoning. Importantly, every zoning enactment must be in accordance with a well-reasoned land use plan. Otherwise, single parcels which are rezoned outside of the plan are subject to challenges for spot zoning. Spot zoning is defined as singling out a small parcel of land for a use totally different from that of the surrounding area for the benefit of an owner of such property to the detriment of other owners. I have some cases that our attorney cited that I'll give whoever wants it afterwards.
You can give them to the clerk, please.
Okay. Okay. On January 19th, I submitted a signed petition from our neighbors in the immediate proximity to the complex who are opposed to amending the PDD. I believe you have that.
Yeah.
Okay. Also, I mentioned in my letter to the board, once again, the core value of the comprehensive plan is to preserve the greatest range of open space and privately held land in the west end of Clifton Park. This doesn't come even close to fitting with the GEIS plan that the town developed in 2004, 2005. This having been said, I just feel that the complex and amending the PDD just simply is not compatible with the neighborhood in any way, shape, or form. Thank you for hearing me out. Please don't amend the PDD. Thank you.
Thank you. Matt? Hi, how are you?
Good, how are you?
Good.
Dear God, I'm short. Okay, hold on a second there. Can you hear me all right?
Yes.
All right. Hi.
Hi.
My name is Ingrid Hahn. I live at 777 Waite Road. And I appreciate everyone surviving the Super Bowl yesterday. And happy Valentine's Day to everybody. I appreciate that this matters to everyone in the room to be here. Just a little bit about myself. I actually am a New York State employee. I work for infectious disease. I have a few degrees in public health and biomedical sciences. I also volunteer for Odyssey of the Mind and a lot of youth programs, including First Robotics. So I do consider myself in tune with the community. I wanted to take a moment to just express some of my concerns in the prospect of the global scale of the entire community being in Western Clifton Park. So in I'm trying to skip things that have already been said 5 or 6 times. I do share all those sentiments as well. Again, I feel like I'm defending something that when I was a child was established. So back in 2004, the GEIS was put into the Clifton Park Town Code, and it was there to protect green space, conservation in Western Clifton Park for people who grow older and for people who grow up. So here I am saying hello. These things were sort of decided and done before I probably could vote. And I appreciate the fact that they were done, and I would also like to know that they stay current and that they are meaningful in purpose. The applicant requesting this amendment knowingly acts to disregard that time, effort, work, and resources that the town of Clifton Park put into the GEIS in 2004, 2005. Approving this amendment would place the interest of one applicant over all of those who have purchased within the PDD of Eagle Crest as it currently stands, as well as to other residents in Clifton Park who rely on the facts and findings outlined in that proposal, and who have placed their trust in the future of Clifton Park's goals and promises. So below, I'm going to list a few things of concerns. The first one is the intensity and volume of the traffic on 146A with the additional increased use and parking spaces to almost 200 and allowing bus drop-off. I have been informed that it would be operational 365 days a year. Again, the applicant has said that there being more usage in the winter, but I have not heard that it would not be used during summer or spring business time. I've also seen the operational initial offering hours include days of the week, weekends that would be from 7 a.m. till 10 p.m. 146A is a single lane road and is a vital path for many Clifton Park residents to receive 911 ambulatory services from Ballston Spa and from the Jonesville Fire Department. I unfortunately have several experiences having to utilize these services, and 146A specifically in that area of the road is vital for Ballston Lake and Jonesville Fire Department to go back and forth. So any congestion there would just be horrific. The facility plans to operate year-round, which is in contrast to the current functions that are supported there with miniature golf, the ice cream stand, and football golf, which are not operational during the off-season. The project sits on just over 8 acres of land and will allow over 50% of the site to be roads, buildings, paved impervious surfaces, or synthetic turf. The full environmental assessment form completed by the applicant on page 9, section E1B covers land uses and cover types of the project site and include an increase of 1.61 acres, totaling 2.13 acres of roads, buildings, and other paved impervious surfaces. An increase of 2.1 acres, a synthetic turf, conveniently listed under the other categories since it doesn't fit under the standard categories. These fields could be non-porous surfaces, raising additional concerns of water drainage and water contamination. The decrease of meadows, grasslands, or bushlands will be decreased by 0.28 acres. They will be moving existing water features such as the inclusion in the terminology of lakes, ponds, streams, rivers, disrupting the immediate ecosystem and dispersing the wildlife to new areas. Any type of project at this scale does impact the local ecosystem, man-made or not. It is near and adjacent to wetlands. I am also a licensed New York State wildlife rehabilitator and feel that I have some expertise to be able to speak on that topic. The full environmental assessment form completed by the applicant on page 11 indicates that the site is or adjoining wetlands or water bodies that are regulated by federal, state, or local agency, supporting a multi-synthetic turf field operational year-round near these properties in an area covered by the GEIS does not seem to serve the intent of the purpose of the GEIS being in place. The full environmental, I wish I had time to practice this, guys, so I'm sorry, it's a little rough. The full environmental assessment form includes a summary report that acknowledges that this area is located in the New York State Heritage Area, the Mohawk Valley Heritage Corridor. The goals of this area is to acquire, preserve, rehabilitate, or restore lands or water structures. The proposed amendment to the PDD would really not fit this with permanent structures and a decrease of over 50% of the natural landscape that is currently there. The amendment will result in a large increase in non-porous surfaces, which, as many people have spoken to, create concerns over water drainage and local nearby aquifers and proper water management. A last point on tonight, the applicant has already laid out that this is a 60% smaller facility than was in the Half Moon Sports Complex. And we've already seen that this would probably not meet, at its initial opening, the expected usage or interest of the community. The applicant tonight clearly spoke that we have the wonderful Clifton Commons, we have a whole bunch of these outdoor recreational places. The site and location of this facility is already undersized with the current proposal on the table. Many of the people in this room support the community, support the idea of being able to have something that works in the winter. This is a small facility that is a little bit undersized and would do much better on properties, even where the Route 9 golf course had closed down. I don't know where there's other space, but outside the Western Clifton Park area that is not protected for this nature. And the time is to act now. So we keep talking about at the planning board, once it's approved, we'll make these little tweaks, we'll come up with a resolution. We shouldn't be at that point. I shouldn't have to be standing here. So thank you very much for your time. If you're interested, thank you very much. Just if anyone is interested, I do have a map of the property. In green is the Western Clifton Park region where the golf course resides in. And I also have another map from the town hall just indicating scenic roads that require a 500-foot setback, which is the adjacent property from the golf course going up Malcolm-Roy and down into Wake Road, which this currently would not sit. Thank you. Yeah.
Only 30 feet off.
Okay, tight chair here. My name is Susan Burton, 338 Riverview Road, Rexford. Can you hear me?
Yes.
And I'm here representing Friends of Clifton Park Open Space. I believe Teresa has distributed our comments to you, but I do have copies if you would like to have another copy. So as you are aware, Friends has had a long-standing interest and involvement in the creation and application of principles for the Western Clifton Park conservation zoning changes implemented after the completion of the town's open space plan in 2003. In the Western GEIS study area, Friends has followed and commented on such issues as special use permits, solar generating facilities, ZBA area variances, various development projects, including duplex housing and PDD modification requests. In 2019, we expressed our concerns with the requested modifications to the Edison Club PDD, which was approved with a commitment to permanently preserve open space of almost 163 acres of core golf course properties. We appreciate and thank the town board for the equitable, forward-thinking resolution in that case. The town is now confronted with another PDD modification that in its present form is more problematic than the Edison Club proposal. This letter is a follow-up to the communications we sent you in December 2021, and some of the arguments in the original letter are reiterated here. But in summary, Friends thinks the proposed Eagle Crest Plantation PDD modification should be denied for the following reasons. One, it ignores fundamental elements of the vision and requirements embodied in the town's most recent comprehensive plan of 2006 and the conservation residential zoning adopted in 2007 after the town adopted the open space plan for Western Clifton Park and the completion of the Western Clifton Park GEIS in 2005. Number two, it also ignores the town's PDD requirements in section 208-72 of the zoning code, which specifies density and uses should be consistent to the extent possible with the surrounding area, which will ensure that the character of the area is not altered. Number three, the project does not even meet the minimum requirements of a PDD, which is 10 acres, according to town code. Indeed, this 8-acre parcel is small, subdivided piece of a much larger 208-acre PDD authorized by the town board in 1993. Four, the parcel cannot represent all of the components that constitute the Eagle Crest PDD. Indeed, it represents less than 4% of the PDD's acreage. To be a true modification, as was the case with the Edison Club, intentions of and plans for the whole PDD acreage must be identified and approved by all of its owners. Otherwise, this represents segmentation, an anathema to proper planning and an overall action that is contrary to the intent of seeker. 5, as we asserted with the Edison Club PDD modification and in accordance with the town statute 208-71. Since the Eagle Crest PDD is in the middle of the CR zone, any requested changes to the PDD must take the underlying zone into consideration. This property totally ignores that requirement. And finally, if this parcel did not benefit from the Eagle Crest Plantation PDD umbrella and was simply undeveloped land, it would never be allowed in this zone. It is our understanding that the Planning Board requested and received advice from the Open Space, Trails, and Riverfront Committee regarding this proposed modification, and that they responded via formal resolution at their January 2022 meeting, right? That the proposal should be rejected because its character does not fit with the zoning surrounding this location. Let us be clear, Friends would support a sports facility like the one proposed, except for the location. We believe that there are more appropriate sites. It is our understanding that the applicant's previous sports complex was located in the town of Half Moon and was accessed from the Route 9, already a commercial corridor. There is a development in progress at Route 9 north of Kins Road that could probably accommodate a facility like this with ease. Similarly, there is considerable land to develop at the corporate commerce zone that could host this function as well. And we have no doubt that there are other more appropriate sites in town. So as always, we appreciate the opportunity to present our position. We are confident the town will give serious consideration to these arguments, and we hope reject this proposal.
Thank you.
Good evening. My name is Daniel Mathias, 7 Birchill Road, Alston Lake. In the interest of time, I'm going to summarize some comments I put together, and I'll provide you with those comments in writing. And I'll do my best. It's going to be hard to compete with the other speakers. But the town board has a really difficult task because, as we know, there's a lot of athletic enthusiasts in this town, and I'm one of them. I coached across the way at that rink for probably 8 or 9 or 10 years, and I had a couple daughters that played soccer. You know, we went to some of these indoor facilities, so I'm not against an indoor facility. I just would like to talk about why I don't think it's the right place. Your decision is going to have a profound effect if you support this, and a negative impact on the future of this conservation residential zone. I think you got the feeling from comments from the others. A couple things. One, the proposal to me is contrary to New York state law and what planned development districts are all about. They're about creative architectural and planning concepts, open space, preservation, and there's nothing in this proposal where open space is being preserved or where we're getting any public or private benefit by dedication of that open space. There's no creative architectural or planning concepts, no economies of scale other than the sharing of some parking spaces. And to the best of my knowledge, I don't even know if the Eagle Crest portion of the PDD is involved. And we talked about the comprehensive plan. Folks have said quite a bit about that. Our comprehensive plan says there should be great importance placed on the retention of large amounts of open space and a density cap. Density and usage should be consistent to the extent possible with the surrounding area, which will ensure that the character of the area is not altered. Well, this proposal would alter the character of the area. And I'll just give you an example. I mean, we talked about the setback from the roadway. Route 146A has a special setback in this town. And where this is placed, it doesn't conform to that setback. I took a look around the area to the best of my ability of other buildings that have been built like this. And as far as I could determine, most of those buildings are located in either the business or the industrial zone. And I looked at the footprint of what they're proposing. The proposed sportsplex is a larger footprint, the foundation, and a roof peak of 40 feet or so, and that's taller and it's larger as a footprint than the two newest medical buildings over on Route 9. You technically could fit those buildings, the footprint of those buildings, inside the sportsplex. And the proposal, in my mind, also evades the provisions of the town zoning code in a number of ways. When you do a PDD, the application should be filed by the owner or jointly by the owners, this is according to town code, of all the property included in the project. Well, there's other properties in this PDD, and we've already heard that the new owners of the Eagle Crest Golf Course want to make some changes to their operation. How are those going to integrate with what's being proposed here? There's no indication of how the sportsplex would integrate with those existing owners. And I think some of the owners of the private residences are here and they're in the PDD.
And a couple of them didn't get any notice from anyone.
The seeker handbook even says that
That's why they're not here.
that when you're doing a PDD, that a full review of all the changes in their environmental impacts should be required in order to assess the full impacts. And without having the other parties involved and what their changes might be, that's not going to take place. I was at the planning board meeting, and there were, even though they did not come up with a recommendation, there were several what I consider negative comments, which I've included in this write-up. And you can look at the minutes of the planning board and see what the concerns were of some of the people. And many of them were, it's too big for this location. So I'll just summarize and say that, there's a lot of town code and a lot of comprehensive plan issues here, and you are the keepers of those codes. We've entrusted you to ensure that they are enforced. And more importantly, as Coach Carice and his wife indicated, you're also the keeper of the legacy of that Carice property. And the question I have is this proposed monolithic structure larger than the footprint of some of our medical buildings over on Route 9 and some of our warehouses that we're putting up? Is that the monument that the town board wants to erect in the memory of the Carice family and their foresight that they had to save that land? I hope not. Thank you.
Hey, Ray.
Good evening. My name is Raymond Seymour. I live at 7 Nadler Road in Clifton Park. Excuse me. There are a number of technical and legal reasons that this town board can turn down PDD modification. But I'd like to focus on another approach that the town might want to consider. First of all, the military expression of "we plan for the worst and hope for the best" may have some appropriateness here. The town could assume from the get-go that the enterprise will fail. And if that happens, what would a new owner do, if there is one, with the leftover facilities? This is not such a far-fetched concern, given the applicant's previous experience in Half Moon. Conversely, the town could assume that the proposed use in this location would be a huge success, and inevitably would need to expand in size, hours of use, and or amenities, such as food preparation, things like that. What does the town do to assist the, quote, hardship owner in that case? If this application is approved, should other landowners in the PDD, I'm talking about the biggest landowner now, assume that it or they should also benefit from a precedent like this modification? The experience of the town of Colony might give us a little bit of a benefit here too. A similar soccer facility was approved with special zoning next to the Memory Garden Cemetery. Since its opening, the facility has generated enough traffic and impact that the town is now confronted with significant upgrades and improvements to the Waterville Shaker Road at taxpayer expense. When someone argues that such a small parcel would have no or little impact on the much larger PDD or even larger CR zone, it reminds me of the old public administration expression, when you let the camel's nose under the tent, the rest of the camel will follow. The CR zone was created in 2007, and after years of study and planning in order that the Western Clifton Park area would be differently developed than the more developed Eastern Clifton Park. Afterward, the town center form-based zoning was implemented, I believe, in 2017. Am I correct on that?
2015.
15?
15.
15, okay.
So we began that process years before.
Okay.
Yeah.
So the town center zoning was implemented in 2015, basically to concentrate high-density, mixed-use development and traffic in an area of town with the infrastructure available to support it. An interesting, very recent experience, personally for us, one of our granddaughters played indoor field hockey at the Shenendehowa Gymnasium on Saturday, which hosted a Capital District Invitational event. At the same time, there were other athletic and extracurricular school activities going on. So my daughter told us when she came back that her old high school was a very busy place on that Saturday. But you know what? Beyond the school campus, it was a normal Saturday morning. You would not know that there was anything going on in there. The Shen campus and the Commons are true gems for sporting and community events in Clifton Park. Now, I think we all support youth sports, but as others have said here, it really should be in another location. This is not the right one. Thank you.
Hi, how are you?
Hi there, I'm Charlene Spetla. I live at 1039 Alston Lake Road. I'd love to see all my neighbors here and thank you all for coming. I have a couple questions, some pertaining to Mr. Rogan. Mr. Rogan, could you please tell me how many parking spots were in the Sportsplex, at your Sportsplex facility?
There was about 230 spaces.
About 230. At this time, I have questions because I need to know the whole detail. I'm sorry, I don't have anything written. I'm not that kind of person. I fly by the seat of my pants. So you said there were going to be 30 to 40 people an hour, correct?
Yeah, it's a much smaller facility than
Okay.
the one
Okay.
compared to.
Then why the 180 to 185 parking
We were
spots?
just showing you because of the amount of parking that could be on the site, we were just being nice by showing what could be there. And apparently it was a mistake because we weren't intending to say that was our needs.
Okay, I just wondered why the
Yeah.
difference.
Yeah, you know, I mean, if you go to a mall, sometimes there's a million parking spaces, and you don't need a mall. We were just showing
But this is our community.
Absolutely.
And this is, we're here because we live where we live, because we like our space. I love our neighbors, and I know if I call anybody to help me, they will be there in a heartbeat. But we live there because we like our space. Now, that being said, to let you know, schools, I love your idea of this, Mr. Rogan. My child participated. I wrote plenty of checks to you over the years, okay? It's a great idea. But like what everybody has been saying tonight, it's the wrong area, okay? I do have some questions on the perk test. Is Andy still here? Andy, when were those perk tests done?
Overdone in the fall.
In the fall of 2021?
Yeah.
And if this proceeds, will the neighbors be able to go and see when these perk tests are done? Be involved in seeing them?
I would say it's traditionally done that way, but I'd say you wouldn't be allowed, I'd say no, you are allowed to do it.
Okay. All right. I know in
They are witnessed by the health department.
okay, in 1994, when Mr. Polson put in that huge pond on LaBelle's property, 4 of us, our wells went dry. I have a 165-foot well now. From a 12-foot well, I have 165. At that time in 1994, it cost my parents $3,000. Okay? We live on a shale ledge. It goes from Malta down, on down. If you question it, go to the Mohawk River. Look on the side of the river. That's all shale there. Okay? Who would be paying for our wells if they went dry? Would the town? If this goes through, they hit water, our wells go dry, who pays? Mr. Barrett,
Well,
would you answer that question, please?
It's really impossible to answer, but
Whether
whether,
consider an escrow
if the-
set up in case something like that happens.
I mean, I'm sorry, I've had this happen before with the golf course. Personally, I don't want to be, I love the golf course. Gino and my parents are best friends. They're buried right next to each other. So I know every new irrigation system. I knew where every box den was. That's my life, okay? It's right there in this community. What about this goes through? We find, I'm sorry, but I'm speaking, sir. I sat quietly when you, excuse me, Andy, I'm speaking. I really think you should give me the opportunity to speak and to be polite enough to listen. On this road, we have lots of accidents. We have speeding. I've had troopers sit in my yard to get people. I've seen accidents. There was an accident last fall coming out of the golf course. If this goes through, we find that the road needs some improvement. Are you gonna take Carisa's land? Because if they're building 30 feet off the road, they're not gonna have any space on their property to take. Are you gonna take, I mean, would that be a possibility? These are things we need to consider, and I pray to God that this board has a better insight to decide that this is not the way to go for our community. I just hope that you talk it over. I think, Mr. Rogan, I have been on the phone. I've been investigating for you. There is a lovely piece of property on Route 9 in Clifton Park, the old driving range, and it was bought in 2007 by Amador Construction. It is not for sale, but they are smart people and they are good investors. That piece of property it's not residential. It would be a perfect piece. You could go bigger than you want to go down. And the community would support you.
I appreciate it.
Okay? They are wonderful. Right now you're asking to make something that's seasonal, something year-round. You said your business would be at night and on the weekends. Who all works? Do you work during the day or are you at night and on the weekends? See, they work the day. That night and on the weekend is our quiet time, and we like it. So I appreciate the time to the councils. I would appreciate you to consider voting no. Thank you.
I'm good. My name is John Hansel. I also reside at 1039 Balsam Lake Road. I also own the property at 1037. Jim, what was that you said about your wife? That's my wife.
If you're smart, you're what? You know your wife's always been smarter.
So I don't come with any prepared statement or anything like that. I took some notes here, and I'm probably going to jump all over the place. But as far as the foot golf goes, that's non-existent. If Mr. Rogan's going to base his business on the traffic at foot golf, he better close up shop now because he's not going to survive. It will not happen. There is no business there. Why do you think they're trying to do something with it? They're not driving any business. Again, I had why the 180 parking spots, that's been addressed. As far as families, I'm a parent. I've got 3 kids. They all went to Burnt Hills High School. We did all the sports stuff. We did lacrosse, field hockey, football, et cetera, We drove to where we had to go. If you didn't do the right sports at the right time, at the right seasonal year, kid didn't get to play or some limited play. We had to drive to Troy for lacrosse. We had to go to Queensbury for lacrosse for, was it Albany Power up there, Sharp?
Yeah.
Albany Power up there. It's unfortunate, but it's a personal choice. It's a sacrifice you make for your children. It's great, don't get me wrong. And I'm going to get into my next part of the conversation. I'm all for this, but like everybody else is not there. It's just not the right spot. It really isn't. I'm going to come to you as a former coach at Burnt Hills. I used to do the youth program. And now, keep in mind the comments about the building and the structure and the outdoor fields. I don't have a presentation, but I'm big on props. Now I measured, I'm an engineer. I've worked in plant design, layout, and all that. That structure, cross field's 310 feet long by 8 feet wide. If you superimpose that white structure over that field, it's a little bit more than half. Say that it's half of a soccer field would be tough to set. But good job. So, at my home, I measured from the easterly corner of my property to the west corner of where this proposed facility is. 401 feet. I sit on my deck, patios, back of my house. On Saturday and Sunday mornings, I can hear Eagle Crest Golf Course starter paging the next foursome ready on the deck. I've coached, I've set round robins at Burnt Hills. You don't think I'm not going to hear this whistle on those fields? Do you think the coaches are just going to yell verbally? You don't think I'm not going to hear them verbally? This is how we start and stop games. I don't need to press the button because you've all been having kids, you've all been to sporting events. You know what this sounds like. And here's probably I don't think I need to demonstrate it anyway. Everybody knows. As far as the field goes, it being used for practice, yeah, I have no doubt it's going to happen. But when I ran tournaments at Burnt Hills, which is a, was it 503B nonprofit?
Yeah.
We tried to maximize our booster club funding as much as we possibly could. And that meant we took 5 playable fields and made 8 out of them. We shortened some. We lined other ones and turned them different directions. We tried to get as much traffic through there as we possibly could and get as much participation teams as we could in the swimming area, whether it was Shed, B-Spa, Niskayuna, etc., Glens Falls. I have no doubt in my mind that this proposal is a profit revenue generating business. There's no question about it.
It's actually probably because it's not for profit, but
But you're going to drive as much business as you can through there. There's no doubt about it. You're going to take that field, you're going to line it any way you can to maximize. Burnt Hills used to do a youth field hockey league in their middle school gymnasium. I know because I helped set it up. And they brought in 2x4s, they sectioned off the field. They had 10 to 12 teams there. And they rotated in and off of that field inside the gymnasium. The rest of the kids went out in the hallway and played and ran between games. outdoors, this is gonna be ideal. So we're all talking about aesthetics. What are those kids gonna be doing when they have tournaments? And yes, they're gonna have tournaments. We know that. They're gonna be running around outdoors, screaming, yelling, doing whatever kids do at that age, from 5, 6 up to 17, 18, senior year. It's gonna be noisy. And fortunately, I'm 500 feet away. Some of my neighbors,
Right next door.
25
I'm
feet,
gonna be right there.
right next door.
And it's gonna be, evenings, there goes their deck time, sitting out there. And I've heard that Van Patten is all in with this golf course. I think some of their golfers are gonna take issue when they start hearing this going off in the afternoon, while they're trying to tee off on the 16th tee box. So I'm obviously opposed to it. It's a great idea. I'm all in with the kids' sports and everything, from grade school up to the senior years, even colleges. It's just not the right place. It's not for anybody's good quality. There's nothing positive comes of for the people who live there. Thank you.
Thank you. Sir, how you doing?
So far, so good. You don't mind if I turn this a little bit?
No, that's right.
My name is Mark Bouchard. I live at 1043 Boston Lake Road. And in between some of my neighbors here, so good evening neighbors, good evening my elected officials. I'm not going to talk about the legalities and what violates and what doesn't go adhere to existing rules. I was just going to confine myself to neighbor impact and raise a few points that I thought might be overlooked or maybe need to be stressed. The first type of objection that neighbors will raise has to do with the character of the neighborhood. We've all talked about that. It's a relatively wild area. There being my side of the road, the odd numbered side of the street, is the Eastover Farm subdivision. There are trails that connect. You can go through my yard all the way to the Elks Club or over to Ashdown Road. The area used to be a bird sanctuary, I heard at one time. There was a moose that got hit by a car on Ashdown Road a few years ago. You don't see that in many places. We're very privileged.
Remember the bear last summer or the summer
bear was
before?
the fall.
Yeah, there was a bear last summer, that's true.
On Ashdown.
The most dangerous thing my kids have run into is a porcupine. Anyway, and when we purchased our property in 1994, 27 and a half years ago, it was because of that character of the neighborhood. We like the wildness. We were looking for a place that permitted livestock. We had a horse. There are horse farms on this street just down the road. Lots of big parcels. And this project doesn't fit that character. We talked about the nuisance factors like noise, and lights, and traffic. I don't need to go into those. But in the area of health and the environment, it was, I don't know if we explicitly said that in this neighborhood there are few of the services that the more built up areas of Clifton Park have. We have no town water, no sewer, and no sidewalks. It makes it a dangerous area to walk your dog, for your kids to play. My kids have never gone trick-or-treating in my neighborhood. I've had exactly one trick-or-treater and 27 Halloween. And he was on his way home.
It's your kid looking for improvement in his grade.
So I happen to live on the curve, that blind curve to the west of the Eagle Crest, west of Wake Road. I've been awakened several times in the middle of the night to the sound of screeching brakes and a thud. I've offered my front lawn twice to the firemen to be used for the helicopter evacuation. I believe one of those accidents was a fatality, where the engine wound up in the Rousseau's yard, I believe. The danger of the road should be well documented because of the accidents and the accident reports. I myself have been hit while turning into my driveway because one impatient driver didn't want to wait for the line of cars approaching Waite Road, thought I was turning right and went around the line and hit me. That's just one impatient driver. In the realm of sports, unlike golf, where you have a foursome every 15 minutes or so, 4 people, soccer in particular has a team of 11. You have 2 teams, you get 22 plus bench warmers, 22, let's say, parents, bringing their kids, and they all have to be there at 8 o'clock for start time. They're not arriving spread out over the hour, but all in a clump. And I bet some of them, like me, like I have been, are desperate to get there on time because you're running late, kid, you gotta get moving. And I don't have a lot of faith that we're going to have, that all the extra drivers will be calm and patient and law-abiding, because they're in a hurry. I walk my dog down Waite Road in front of Ingrid and AJ's house by the Mannings. People see me. We go a mile twice a day down to the train tracks on Waite Road and back. I had one guy just misclipping me a few times. The town should be well aware of the speeding problem on Waite Road, especially when Ashdown Road Bridge was closed for construction. The town added flags on the speed limit signs to make sure people could see. They even had a radar gun telling you your speed. And I used to try to run with the dog to see if I could get on that register. I'm concerned about home value prices, homeowners, the value of our homes. Because you can see I'm getting close to retirement age, right? Pretty soon my income's gonna stop. And I will be dependent on a fixed income with my savings of last resort being the value of my home. If my home depreciates in value, even a little bit, it may impact my ability to stay in that home and age in place. I suppose it could be the difference between living in comfort or living in poverty. And even if it's just a little bit, there are many houses in the neighborhood. If, let's say, home prices appreciate, if we diminish them by $100,000 for 10 homes, that's $1 million out of our wealth erased. But 10 is really too few. Say it's 20, say it's 50, and only $20,000 off their home price, but there's 50 homes that drop $20,000. That's $1 million out of the value of the land in the town of Clifton Park, $1 million off the tax rolls, and $1 million erased from our retirement savings. That worries me. I think that for this particular project, it sounds, there are benefits, but we seem to have overlooked that you boxed yourself in. Any type of a business, you want it to be successful. And as a taxpayer of Clifton Park, where our expenses are offset by revenue, maybe the rentals from your places, you've eliminated the concession stand. If the business thrives and you're ready to put in another soccer field, you just ran out of room on your map. So I wonder, are you in the business of, do you want to be in the sportsplex business, or do you want to find a business that works in that location? If you want to be in the sportsplex business, let's all find you a spot that works well. If you want to find a business that works in that corner of Eagle Crest, let's find something there that fits with the neighborhood. They are not necessarily the same thing. So when I look at the alarm bells ringing, this project comes across to me like a threat, and I feel like I needed to stand up and defend my home. It's a threat because the noise and the bustle will threaten the quiet and tranquility, the natural life, or the wildlife around, the quality of my life, enjoying my property. The drivers, the possibly impatient parent drivers who will go, are already a threat to our walkers, our bicyclists, our pets, our children, and even other drivers like me who turn into your driveway, making a left turn instead of a right. The construction may threaten my water supply. We all have wells. And that threatens my family's health. If we don't have water, if the water's contaminated, that's a threat to our family's health. The water table threatens my house's foundation. The sump pump runs all the time now. What's it going to be? Maybe it'll get better, maybe it'll get worse. I don't know that I can afford that. It threatens the value of my home, and therefore it threatens my retirement, my ability to live independently, my savings. And it seems to be a very divisive issue from what I've been reading on email, less than I hear here tonight, especially between the East Clifton Park and West Clifton Park, the built up and the rural. And it feels in my neighborhood like it's a project imposed by outsiders. It's not something that none of my neighbors wants. I haven't heard a positive supporting opinion from any of the neighbors in this neighborhood. So I have to ask, if it's a popular project for the town, but it's very unpopular in our neighborhood, why not build it in the place that it's popular? Wouldn't that make sense? And even Mr. Rogan, I had to quote you from this evening. You said, we're limited in what we can do here. It's on the slide. So why build it here? If you're limited here, why build it here? And just so I don't end as a naysayer and a cloud of doom, I want to offer a vision of a brighter Clifton Park that includes a sportsplex. Let's say, in my vision, I see a shining new sportsplex on Route 9 or Route 146. In this convenient location, close to the Northway, and on a major thoroughfare, either Route 9 or Route 146, traffic is not an issue. It's easy to get to. And even though those are busy roads, they'll actually be safer in the neighborhood because they've got 2 lanes of traffic in each direction and a turning lane in the middle. Something Route 146A does not have. They have sidewalks or a wide shoulder. In my vision, I see a business builder, a tax-based builder welcomed by neighboring businesses. I could see parents dropping off their kids at practice. I didn't have time to get dinner. I'm going to step across the street to Harbor House Fish Fry and bring some back. Or I'll walk down to Clifton Park Pizza and get some. Maybe get some subs from Subway. Those are all nearby that area. You can't do that at Eagle Crest, especially if you remove the snack bar. You took away the only food for 4 miles. And if the business thrives, I really wish that a business there would thrive. We have blighted properties in our town, things that are eyesores, undeveloped, that have been removed from the tax base. There's a vacant stores in our shopping malls. There's the car dealer moved. There's vacant properties, if not at the driving range, then just up the street and just down. They all have signs available, continue. They have room to expand. The business thrives, put in another soccer field, bring more business. And those tournaments we don't want to think about, by all means, bring them in. We have empty hotel rooms in Clifton Park. When I moved in, there were no hotels. We have a whole empty hotel right behind Warren Tire. There's a Red Roof Inn, Holiday Inn Express, 2 Marriotts. They all have space. Bring in your out-of-town guests. Let them spend their money in the restaurants. Let them buy meals. Let them go grocery shopping on the way home. It's a win-win, a win for the town, the tax base. Our neighborhood stays the same. Our kids, our grandchildren will have a place to go. And the community the town would be like a town beautification project, getting rid of eyesores. You'd have less opposition from the residents. The businesses would welcome it. And let me just leave one parting thought. When you look up a real estate listing, have you seen a house listed as on a golf course, on the 9th hole of the golf course? When have you seen a house listed as adjacent to the sportsplex? That's my thought. I'm worried. I'm here. I spoke my mind. Thank you for listening. And please do not approve this. Or let us help find you a spot that works better. Please.
All right, well, maybe Frank will do the cleanup work tonight.
Yes, I'm Frank Berlin, 980 Main Street, Jonesville. So I've been here since '64, right? And I tell you guys, our town has progressed so much from for the board listening to us forever, even though we may not all agree. We used to get, I think, 3 minutes. I think one board member remembers that, right? To get 5 minutes was like to get twisting an arm. So I want to let you guys know how much I think as citizens you are willing to recognize and listen to us. Because that is amazing. So I've seen the things happen in the town. 2 board members, I'm not trying to mention names, we walked the Veterans Park years ago like we were in Vietnam. Remember that? And it was swampy, and we had a good walk there, and there was nothing there. It was going to be 12 ball fields, guys. And I went to the Carissi's house, had tea with them, knocked on the door, and said, "I'm not from the town. I have no authority." They were the greatest people, and that property was preserved. So those are good things. We have a lot of good things. Now, you guys, you got a burden. I'm telling you, because we had the questionnaire from the town that went out years ago, and that came back almost in the 80%, because you guys are interested in your town. This is really good, right? And you replied, you want to protect the water, you want to protect the environment. And the town took a lead on that and did a comprehensive plan in the western part of town. A building moratorium, which I almost fainted when it happened. I thought the town wouldn't do that, you know?
About 18 months, right?
That's right, you remember? Those are all good things. So we're always moving in that good direction, you know? And I'm concerned about not only your area, but the whole western GIS part there, the conservation zone. We set a plan out for the eastern part of town. We had charrettes and workshops to have an area for commerce. We did that. And we did it for the western part. So we've already set this up. I really think we should stay the course and have a smart growth, which we worked so hard on. You hired Jennifer Vigiani on the open space. I think of 1-2 towns in the state of New York that had that. That's amazing. We try to protect the farms. Maple Hill Farm to the west of that property, right, is now in conservation, right? the Parisi property, Veterans Park, all to the north, the golf course we considered like an open space. South of the golf course, a couple of 100 acres is an environmental easement. You guys know that. Some of the people know the people's names there that own that property on the other side of the railroad track. It goes almost over to 146. So that whole idea and the green sea that we talked about. So you guys got a big burden, you know, this is the way we want it to go. You know where I think it should go. If I was on that board, I'd say, love your idea, but it's not the right place. Thank you.
Thank you, Frank.
We do appreciate everybody coming tonight and giving us your thoughts and perspectives. If you have any follow-up questions at all, please contact us. We can answer those questions to the best of our ability. If it's something we can't answer, we can try to get an answer. But Frank, yeah, we did walk that property in '99, so we're going back a few years.
Oh, yeah.
Frank and I walked that property with, you know, I'm very proud of the open space plan that the town initiated in the very early 2000s. The subsequent Western Clifton Park General Environmental Impact Statement, which was a large study that included the moratorium, Frank, that you mentioned. So that followed our open space planning process, and we've thankfully been very successful in permanently preserving 1,700 acres of property and expanding our parks and recreational network. And right in this immediate area, we've had some success, has been mentioned tonight, with the farm on the corner of 146A in Ashdown, the Mooney Carice project. We were able to permanently preserve that property, which coincides nicely with Veterans Park. So we'll continue to work on those types of initiatives and continue to expand our open areas in town. Obviously, this application that came in, it is different than what is there now on that parcel. There's no doubt about it. So we do appreciate your perspective as the folks that live right there in that immediate area. I think that's very important to our decision-making process. And like I said, I can't tell you when a vote might occur. It could be in the next several weeks. But again, if you have any questions, please let us know. Okay. Thank you.
I have a question. The vote will be at a town meeting where the.
It would have to be at a town meeting. Oh, yeah. It would have to be at a town board meeting, correct. Yep. Yeah, at this point, we referred it to the planning board for an initial recommendation, but they're not involved in the process any longer following that recommendation. It's strictly in the hands of the town board as to whether the project moves forward or doesn't. The buck stops here, I guess.
Thank you.
Okay.
I've also received.
I'm sorry, go ahead.
It's okay. Two
Yep.
emails, one from an Albert Betzweiser, and he was in agreement with you, not agreeing with the GEIS and the Eagle Crest. He had a lot of concerns, as the rest of you have there, in opposed of them. Also, one from Jeff Jones, not representing, not as a member of a representative of any organization, but he is the longtime youth coach, and he is in favor of it.
And youth coach where?
Excuse me?
What is he a youth coach?
He said, we've had a hole in the youth sports scene since the Sportsplex was forced to close. We've had to travel to other towns to play our league games and play in tournaments. As someone who prefers to spend their money and patronize local establishments and organizations, this isn't something I like to do. While I recognize no project is perfect, this one will go a long way towards filling a hole left in the sports youth community. It will allow us to stay local and grow businesses locally. I ask that you not let perfect be the enemy of good and give this project consideration.
Any others?
And those are the only two that I received, that those of you who did send them in, were not here tonight.
I just have a question.
Welcome.
I'm sorry.
Yes.
What is the time frame for the next board meeting when there will be the vote?
Well, I can't say exactly when a vote might take place. Yeah. So, yeah, it would be on the agenda, that is correct. Yeah. All right, well, again, thank you very much. We'll close the public hearing at this point. We received a lot of correspondence from folks. Some of you were here tonight, some not, but in either case, we were able to gain a good perspective of where you stand on the project. So, thank you.
Hey, Frank, how are you?
All right, we do have several resolutions for consideration. Teresa, if you could read through those.
A resolution appointing Dolores Mack as principal typist for civil service classifications. Folks, we're going to continue the meeting. If you want to step outside, thanks. Whereas an opening exists for a principal typist in the Department of Building and Development. Whereas this resolution was on the agenda for the February 7th, 2022 town board meeting and tabled by majority vote of the board on motion by Mrs. Standard with Councilwoman Wallen by voting to table the resolution and remove the hiring of Mr. Matt for consideration of the board at that time. Whereas Matt successfully passed the civil service exam and is #1 on the certification list of eligible principal typists provided by Saratoga County Human Resources. And whereas Stephen Myers, Director of Building and Development, has interviewed Ms. Mack and wishes to hire Ms. Mack as a principal typist grade 6, step 4, year 1, to be paid $32.81 an hour. And whereas Dolores Mack has demonstrated the background, education, and training and experience necessary for the position, and as the candidate with the highest score, she has established eligibility for the position for the New York State Civil Service laws. Now therefore be resolved that Dolores Mack, 387 Middle Line Road, Boston Lake, New York, is hereby appointed as principal typist for the Town of Clifton Park for civil service certification, effective immediately. We have further resolved that the comptroller is authorized to transfer $33,415 from General Fund Building Department Captain K. Bonney and $20,400 from General Fund Building Department Code Enforcement to the General Fund Building Department employees. A resolution to approve an engineering agreement for design and construction phases of the Clifton Park Route 146 sidewalk project. Whereas by resolution number 22 of 2022, the town board authorized the supervisor to execute a grant contract with New York State Department of Environmental Conservation for partial funding of the project under the Climate Smart Communities Grant Program. And whereas on December 28, 2021, the Planning Department distributed a request for qualifications among all firms qualified to provide local design services for the engineering, design, and construction inspection of the project, consistent with New York State guidelines for DEC and DOT funded projects. And whereas MJ Engineering and Land Surveying submitted the sole responding bid offering to provide comprehensive engineering, design, and construction management services in the amount of $186,700. And whereas MJ Engineering has provided similar engineering services on numerous projects that have been successfully completed within the town. Now therefore be it resolved that the proposal of MJ Engineering, comprising of design and inspection services, is in response to the RFQ of December 28, 2021 is accepted, and be it further resolved that the supervisor is authorized to execute the attached contract with MJ Engineering, and be it further resolved that the comptroller is authorized to create capital project H62 Clifton Park Route 146 sidewalk project with a budget of $440,000, of which $220,000 will come from grant revenues and $220,000 will be paid by a transfer from unassigned fund balance to the Clifton Park Route 146 sidewalk project. Whereas it be it resolved that the expenditures for the project totaling $440,000 will be allocated in the amount of $186,700 to Capital Projects Fund Engineering for payment of MJ Engineering to offset the cost of the engineering contract, and be it further resolved that the remaining $253,300 will be allocated to the H62, it's the Capital Project Fund equipment. A resolution authorizing Anil Bish to serve alcoholic beverages at a gathering to be held at the Clifton Park Senior Community Center on March 26, 2022, whereas resolution number 27 of 2022 authorizing Anil Bish to serve beer and wine at a gathering on March 19, 2022, and whereas Anil Bish, 613 Clifton Park Center Road, Clifton Park, has requested a change of the date for the gathering to March 26, 2022, from 6 to 11 p.m. And whereas Anil Bish has requested permission to serve alcohol in the form of beer and wine at the event, now therefore be it resolved that Anil Bish is hereby authorized to serve beer and wine at a gathering at the Clifton Park Senior Community Center on March 26, 2022, from 6 to 11 p.m. A resolution hiring Mary L. Gilbo as a part-time animal control officer, whereas an opening exists for a part-time animal control officer due to the resignation of David Drzinski. And whereas Terry Cook, Director of Animal Control, has recommended that Mary L. Gilbo, 10 Garden Road, Rexford, be hired provisionally for the position pending civil service certification. Now therefore be it resolved that Mary Gilbo, Rexford, New York, is hereby hired as a part-time animal control officer for the town of Clifton Park at grade 3, step 1, $19.71 per hour, budgeted from general fund animal control part-time employee, effective immediately. A resolution adopting a corrective action plan for the purposes of submitting to the New York State Comptroller, whereas the New York State Office of Comptroller conducted an information technology audit in 2020 to 21, and whereas a report with recommendations was filed with suggestions for corrective actions to be undertaken by the town in response to suggestions and recommendations contained in the audit report, and whereas Councilwoman Standard has presented a draft corrective action plan with recommendations for actions, persons responsible for such actions, and implementation dates as they have already been met or shall be achieved. Now therefore be it resolved, the town board adopts the attached Town of Clifton Park corrective action plan. A resolution hiring a full-time recreation attendant for the Clifton Park Senior Community Center, whereas an opening exists for a full-time recreation attendant in the Clifton Park Senior Community Center due to the resignation of Heath Ulrich, and whereas Sue Leonard, Director of Clifton Park Senior Community Center, has interviewed Zachary Dorenzo, 17 Ballot Drive, Clifton Park, and wishes to hire Mr. Dorenzo as recreation attendant, grade 3, step 1, $41,246 a year, and whereas Councilwoman Standard has recommended that Zacharias Dorenzo be hired to fill the full-time position as advertised. Now therefore be it resolved that authorization is hereby given to hire Zacharias Dorenzo for the Clifton Park Senior Community Center at grade 3, step 1, effective immediately, and be it further resolved that the comptroller is authorized to transfer the balance from General Fund Senior Center K. Aldrich to the General Fund Senior Center employee.
Very good. Thank you, Teresa. Any questions on the resolutions? Teresa, will you read the headings, please?
Resolution number 42 of 2022, a resolution appointing Dolores Mapp as principal typist per civil service classification.
So moved.
Second. Motion's on the table. Steve?
Yeah, we've interviewed Dolores, and she's in Waterville, so that she tried to actually some background, so it's not going to be more into it. She doesn't, secretary of schools, so hopefully, when she learns how to do things, she'll work out well.
Okay, very good. As I said earlier, she was number 1 on the civil service list. And, yeah, I think she'll fit in nicely in the department. She's got some big shoes to fill. Somebody who's a long-term employee in town hall and in the building department. But I think she'll do a great job. Discussion.
Tom, I just have a question procedurally. Do we need to lift this from the table from last week, or?
I believe you do. Take
Okay.
the formal, take it off the table and vote on the new one.
So you need a motion for that? Okay, so I'd like to make a motion to lift this off, the resolution from the table.
Second.
Who seconds?
Yeah.
Okay. Councilwoman Flood?
Yes.
Councilwoman Standard?
Yes.
Councilman Morelli?
Yes.
Councilwoman Wallowit? Supervisor Barrett?
Yes.
And let's see, and this is for the appointing, and it is Councilwoman Flood?
Yes.
Councilwoman Standard?
Yes.
Councilman Morelli?
Yes.
Councilwoman Wallowit?
Yes.
Supervisor Barrett?
Yes.
Resolution number 43 of 2022, a resolution to approve an engineering agreement for design and construction phases of the Clifton Park Route 146 sidewalk project.
So moved. Second.
On the table, John, we continue to move this project forward. Anything to add here?
Just that we did go through an RFQ process. We sent it out to many of the qualified consultants. We only received one response, which was MJ Engineering, and it is consistent with New York State DOT and federal highway requirements for a project within a public right-of-way, even though this grant is administered through DPC's Climate Smart Communities. As part of this agreement, the price tag includes the right-of-way acquisition services, so that's looking at the worst-case scenario. There's always the possibility to come in under budget with that. It includes the right-of-way mapping and also includes construction inspection so that we can work with our consultants to basically get this design locked in, get the construction out to bid, and be able to administer construction over the site as seamlessly as possible going forward.
Very good, thank you. Any questions for John? Okay, Kristen.
Councilwoman Flood?
Yes.
Councilwoman Standard?
Yes.
Councilman Morelli?
Yes.
Councilwoman Wallowit?
Yes.
Supervisor Barrett?
Yes.
Resolution number 44 of 2022, a resolution authorizing Emil Bish to serve alcoholic beverages at a gathering to be held at the Clifton Park Senior Community Center on March 26, 2022.
So moved. Second.
Motion's on the table, discussion. Teresa?
Councilwoman Flood?
Yes.
Councilwoman Standard?
Yes.
Councilman Morelli?
Yes.
Councilwoman Wallowit?
Yes.
Supervisor Barrett?
Yes.
Resolution number 45 of 2022, a resolution hiring Mary Gilbo, L. Gilbo, as a part-time animal control officer.
So moved. Second.
Okay, resolution's on the table. Mary's still here. Boy, you waited it out, Mary.
Yeah.
She's dedicated. All right. Mary is somebody that was referred to us for animal control. And I know, Terry, you met with Mary and recommended her. I met with her as well and thought she'd be very good at the job. What do you think?
Absolutely.
Anything that you'd like to add about Mary?
She comes with experience. She's also a first responder, and, which works well in this position. I think she'll work out great.
Yeah, good. Okay, Mary, you sure?
I'm sure.
All right.
Still, sir?
Okay, any further discussion?
Councilwoman Flood?
Yes.
Councilwoman Standard?
Yes.
Councilman Morelli?
Yes.
Councilwoman Wallowit?
Yes.
Supervisor Barrett?
Yes, welcome.
Resolution number 46 of 2022, a resolution adopting a corrective action plan for the purposes of submitting to the New York State Comptroller.
So moved. Second.
Okay, this is on the table. Discussion?
Councilwoman Flood?
Yes.
Councilwoman Standard?
Yes.
Councilman Morelli?
Yes.
Councilwoman Wallowit?
Yes.
Supervisor Barrett?
Yes.
Resolution number 47 of 2022, a resolution hiring a full-time recreation attendant for the Clifton Park Senior Community Center.
So moved. Second.
Okay, resolution's on the table. I know Zach had to leave, but he was here for a long time tonight. Nice young man. I had the pleasure to meet with him last summer when we had the opening for the same position. That was filled internally, but we kept him in mind for this round. Sue, anything you want to add about Zach?
Seems like a nice young man. He'd be able to do the job. He has the computer skills that I need. He can lift the tape. I mean, he do all the parts that we have to do. We actually brought him in and tested it out too, just to make sure. So, yeah, he was the best, definitely the best candidate. And I think everyone had a chance to talk to him. So.
Put him through his paces already?
He did good, he did really well. So, yeah, his girlfriend was waiting, holding dinner for him, his Valentine's. You know, I said, go home.
Yeah, so, but this is a unique position because there is a mix of, setting up, as you see here tonight, chairs, tables for all the events that take place daily here at the Senior Community Center. But also a strong attention to detail, the ability to work with computers and different programs. And yeah, I think he'll fit nicely for what you need here at the center.
Absolutely.
Okay, any further discussion? Okay, Teresa?
Councilwoman Flood?
Yes.
Councilwoman Standard?
Yes.
Councilman Morelli?
Yes.
Councilwoman Walowitz? Yes. Supervisor Barry?
Yes. Any other business to come before the board this evening? All right, we'll go to public privilege. If you'd like to speak on a town matter, please raise your hand. We'll ask that you come forward. State your name and address for the record, and please keep it to 5 minutes or less. Ingrid, you're already spoke tonight, but.
I respond. No, I'll just say, I don't know if that's the stand. I was just saying for the course of the meeting and just thank you for your time and effort. And I did my part because I wanted to stay and just hear the rest of the business.
And you were at our last meeting too.
I was. I had
Yes.
requested it move here.
Yes.
I do follow online, but it is nice to actually be here in person once in a while too and see all these wonderful faces representing the community. So,
Well, thank you.
thank you.
Appreciate you coming tonight.
Appreciate being heard
Ms. Walsh?
and keeping my other
Motion to
half waiting.
adjourn. Councilwoman Flood?
Yes.
Councilwoman Standard?
Yes.
Councilman Morelli?
Yes.
Councilwoman Walowitz? Yes. Supervisor Barry?
Yes, thank you.
Took a whole year.
All right.